Wait for a few seconds. Alright, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Saturday, August 1st, 2020. And I asked last time, I believe, or it was the week before, did anybody find democracy or democratic in the organic Constitution at all?
Not there.
It's not there at all. So that means the Democratic Party, anybody who says it's a democracy, we have to defend our democracy, they're fucking invaders. They're traitors.
They're not.
They're committing treason to the Constitution. And with that, guys, Ed, take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to have an interesting conversation because we want to get into what they call child support. Now, what is child support? See, that's the one thing that people don't realize, that your state is a corporation. So where's your contract with that corporation that says that you're paying it? No, they send you a letter in the mail that you want to save because it's called mail fraud. And they're trying to extort money from you through the mail. That's a federal crime. And so the point is that people have to, first off, you have to register, not register, but file to own yourself. And people don't get that. I own me. I filed in the Oregon State House and Senate. It was published. It was published in the media. It was published in the House and Senate recorded records. I even have that proof. And see, that's the point that freaks them out. Yeah, they tried to come after me, but they haven't, after I filed my paperwork, and I got my last part, I haven't heard from them. And this is the point that you want to stay away from these nutcases. Because remember, these public servants don't care about you. I don't give a shit what lies they want to give you and what you want to believe. Okay? Stop believing the lies. Because if this is the life that you want to live, that you've already lost the battle. And this is the point. Our system lies. Your cops are paid to lie to you. And once you accept that your senator, your congressman, all of them lie to you. Their job is not to protect you. Their job is to make a living and raping you for money. And if you ever get kidnapped and held for ransom, that is rape. Because when you go for a strip search, that's rape. Okay? And that is the point. Most people cannot comprehend the reality of what our American system is. They want to go, I want to go to the British system. And that's what you're going by, the British system. So you have to learn you have to comprehend what the American system is, not what you think it is. That's the problem. People don't think. They open their minds to a lot of crap. Literally. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they don't even live in reality. And you can see that. We got these people that are out there, and lawyers and attorneys. And that is the one thing that gets to me is that we got this Christiane Hall out there who's a lawyer. Oh, we're going to say and we're going to do this. Christiane Hall refuses to have a debate with me on the Constitution. She's a lawyer. She goes, I do constitutional law. She doesn't do constitutional law. She does constitutional slavery. Because she can't tell the truth. Lawyers cannot tell the truth. They're like cops. And once you comprehend that, you know that they take an oath and they're supposed to honor their oath and they're supposed to do this and they're supposed to do that, protect your rights, have them put it in writing. See what happens when you want to put it in writing. Ask them to put your contract in writing. You hire an attorney, you hire a lawyer. What contract do you have to prove that you have a contract? Where is the contract? So you have no contract with them, so they don't have to protect you. And trust me, I've dealt with attorneys and lawyers for 40 years. watch this shit for 40 years. They lie for 40 years. Because they have to lie, because if they didn't lie, they wouldn't have a job. That's why they call them liars, or lawyers, or attorneys. Look up the definition of a lawyer. It's right on the internet. Type in lawyer, comes up there, liar. It says it right on the internet. I mean, this is the point, you know. People argue with me all the time. Oh, that can't be true. That can't be true. And it's like, you know, instead of arguing, how about accepting the facts and start standing up for your rights? Because everybody keeps saying, oh, you know, I own my child. You don't own your child, because the minute you register that child with the state, you gave that child to the state. You don't have a child. You don't have responsibility to that child. That's how the state can come in and steal your children without a warrant. You know, trust me, I grew up around, I've been hanging around policy officers. I used to be a policy officer. Learn what a policy officer is. You know, that's the frustrating point, that people don't even have a concept of what they talk about when they talk about, I know the law. It's like I'm getting ready to go after this one group. They got a TV commercial that's coming on YouTube now on immigration. Oh, we got to redo the immigration law. We never had immigration laws. Bullshit. 1770 was the original contract with the British government on immigration with the Indians. Ratified 1770 when the first court case filed in 1778. When the Supreme Court opened in 1779 was the third court case. Read your history. Type it in. Learn it. See, this is the one thing that sort of frustrates me. And I put this stuff up. I put all this stuff up, the laws, administrative rules. And remember, a statute code and administrative rules for them, not you. Okay? I've never gone by the administrative rules. I mean, trust me, I've had them where they've gone after me. I've had it where they've shot at me. I've got YouTube videos of them trying to kill me. You know, it's not a joke. I mean, but see, people don't comprehend that you have a right. You know, I could probably say it. I've been dead 13 times. I have gone through, 7.5 months hooked up on life support. Been there, done it. Even on a couple talk shows right on this channel. So when I was on life support, you know, people go, well, Ed, you need to go take care of yourself. I'm like, how are you supposed to take care of yourself? I mean, come on, wake up. Is there any intelligence? Because, you know, when people tell me, oh, you need to take care of yourself, you know, and it's like, I get people at times tell me, well, you shouldn't be in politics, you know, your heart and all this shit. And it's like, you shouldn't be in our country. This group, this new thing on YouTube, and I don't know if you see it yet, but you will, you know, these immigrants. Oh, we have an open country. No, we do not have an open country. I'll even go find the federal law for you. It says we're not an open country. I'll get that to you here in a few minutes. See, we're not an open country. All this bullshit that these people out there are feeding your head full of crap. You know, it's like Nancy Pelosi, the bitch herself. And I'll tell her she's a bitch. Okay? I have no respect for that woman. Nobody should have any respect for that woman. She rapes children. She supports raping children. She makes a living off of it. Most public employees do that because it's called their income. That's how they create a job. They don't create a job by protecting you. And so I want to get into this other one that you're going to love this. I want you guys to start writing this stuff down, because once people, you know, who knows? But I'm going to tell you something people don't comprehend. 42 U.S.C. code, right? Codes are administrative rule that they have to follow. 12203 prohibits against retaliation. And that means if a judge threatens you in any way, paying fines or anything, read 42 U.S.C. 12203. This is an administrative law, so you can write this in your, you know, you're getting this going, hey, I got a speeding ticket. You can write this in your court case, because that's retaliation, because the judge, and you explained it, the judge, the clerk, the cop, the prosecuting attorney, they all work for the system. They all make a living off of that system. You don't get a dime from it. All they do is want to rape, rob, and pillage because they want to increase the national debt, because every time they do stuff like this, it increases the national debt. The national debt is called national debt. Look up national debt. It's British debt. Look it up, folks. I mean, stop your bullshit. Because the national debt is the British government's debt that they want us to pay. And that goes back to Title 18, 3002. All right? Read it. It says that the government, and that's, remember, your government, your corporation government, the British government, not American. The legislative courts, not American. That's the point. You can type and put that in your criminal charges. See, that's the one thing. You're right. Because see, when you put in an affidavit, you have to put things in an affidavit because only living men and women can do an affidavit. A lawyer can't. A judge cannot. Prosecuting attorney cannot do it because they're not living men and women. They're corporation. They don't exist technically. See, that's the one thing. And I mean, this is all in the laws. And I mean, you got it out, and I'll be posting the actual laws tonight on the talk show. And I'll be go back the last 3 weeks and put it up too with the other ones. And I will be doing that tonight. It's like I haven't been asleep again. I've been working all night on this stuff and a few other projects. Got them going on. We're doing this illegal immigrant project right now too. And then I finally got through to some of the doctors that are on the internet. Okay, and it's been interesting having conversations with some of these people and explaining, let's talk about who owns the children. It's called your birth certificate insurance bank bond note. 27 CFR 72.11. United States defined. Remember, United States Corporation, I just told you the title. That is Title 28, Title 28, 3002. I said 18, but it's 28. And all crimes are commercial. All right, that falls under national debt. Remember, people don't comprehend when the Civil War happened, it was the British government. Nobody else in the world. The British government going against the natives again. And at that point, native, and if you actually look at the true history of this country, native does not just include Indian by their own administrative rules and the Indian treaties. The Indian treaties go back and clarify a lot of this stuff. And that's the one thing that sort of disturbs me, how people don't read treaties. And everybody's going international law. International law and commerce are not technically part of the United States. I could do international commerce from Oregon, Washington, and California, New York City, Florida. I don't need a permit. I'm native. See, native laws are different than your administrative rules. And trust me, I've got this filed. I've been through this stuff with the House and Senate. I've argued with these people on the Senate floor, and they've had to admit to us right. And it's really funny. Well, to me, it's hilarious when they have to admit that I'm right. But they don't like doing that because, oh, shit, we can't tell Ed he's right. We can't do that, I mean, I've got him admitting on right through the televised public meetings. I push him. I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth. I don't want to hear your crap. Because remember, your elected and public employees work for you. And we have that, and I'm going to go through part of the sheriff structure, too. Because the sheriff and your police departments take an oath. And if they don't honor the oath, it's against the Constitution. Even though the Constitution is a foreign instrument when it comes down to it, because foreigners wrote it, not Americans. And see, that's the one thing. Well, some of the natives were part of it. That's where people go with religion. Well, you have the right to your religion. My religion is different than your religion. So if people want to argue about religion, it's like, when are we going to grow up? When are the children going to grow up? Because, see, when you go to argue about religion, whose religion is right? Mine, yours, air, water? And then that's the point. Religion is a man or a woman's personal structure of their belief. It is not to be published. It is not to be even in our school system. Everybody keeps going, we want religion in the school. We don't want religion in our school system. But I do support having religion where a public employee takes an oath to the devil's Bible. The Bible. Okay? I'm running for county commissioner again. I'll have my paperwork filed this week. They freaked out. Now, the only other guy so far who's running, he's the accountant and the computer man for my county. Once I file, I guarantee you there'll be 5 other people showing up. Because every time I file, man, there's always been 5 people. Last time, Celeste, who runs the Chowder Bowl here in Newport, she spent $50,000 going out there for banners and stuff that she had hanging around trees. Of course, she had to take them down because that was a crime. I ran for state representative back in, that would have been 2007. And, I had hundreds of signs that were all around our county. And so it was interesting because the road department for Lincoln County picked up all my signs, but they didn't pick up anybody else's signs on the road. So, and then all of a sudden they wanted to charge me to pick up my signs. All right, this is real. This is how these Democrats work. And if you're a rhino, you're a Democrat, all right? Because if you're not going by the Constitution, you're not an American. The native treaties are the law of this land. And that's one thing that they're slowly getting. It's publishing, it's getting it out there, and people are starting to learn that the Indian treaties are the law of the land. Now, the Indians have been so talked out, and they've been so convinced of foreign government that most of the natives don't even comprehend their own administrative rules of their own tribes. They got British administrative rules they run today in their tribes. And I've been arguing with some of these people. And it's like I'm glad to see that finally the Navajos finally got it over in South Dakota because, excuse me, they couldn't put it oil drilling. They couldn't do that, but they had to file criminal charges. So that's like when a state comes in and takes your kid, kidnaps it, steals it, holds it for ransom. You have to file the criminal charges as the injured man or woman. It's called a corpus delicti. You have to write your own court case up and produce it. Because if you don't do it, a lawyer cannot, because that's called what do they call that? A dead body. They don't exist. Also, when a mother allegedly abandons her birth child, this is when she registers the child with the state. So people say, oh, abortion and moms. Well, mom, you screwed up. You gave your child away. And then you want the man to pay child support for what you do? You're not even protecting your own child. And we don't have an obligation to pay child support legally to you. Because if you want to get technical, you're a woman claiming that you have rights and responsibilities. So, no disrespect, you open her leg, you got pregnant, whose fault is that? Yours, not the man's. Because you allowed it to happen. So now you've got a parasite growing into you before it becomes something that grows. It takes it at least 6 weeks to 8 weeks before it doesn't even have a heartbeat for the first 2 months. Go read the medical journals. See, this is the point. Everybody goes by these people that are religiously talking instead of common sense. And I finally got the deal, and I put it up on the website. The so-called coronavirus is a combination of, what do they call that, swine flu and two doctors have written it up that it is, what do they call that again? Oh, the H1N1 virus. See, this COVID-19 was created so the British government, Nancy Pelosi, to steal your funds and destroy your businesses. The Democrats literally went out to destroy this country because of the bullshit, because, see, Trump is running again. He wouldn't bow his head to the Queen. If you look at all the stuff when Trump went to England, he did not bow to the Queen. Neither did his wife. He went to shake her hand, and everybody, you can see the video, and everyone's like, oh, you can't do that. You're supposed to show respect. Excuse me. Excuse them. You're not my God. You're not my queen. So I don't have to show you respect. I come to your country, and the point is that most of your property taxes, 60% goes to the Vatican, 40% gets divided up. Now, it doesn't go to what you think it is, fire departments and all that stuff. They build that on public trust, and I've got that. It's on the website. Oh, I don't know if it's all on the website yet, but I've got it all over the Facebook sites. You know, New.org and Trackers. I've got it on Recall Cape Brown, Civil Rights, Civil War, 1866. And also, too, I have it on the United States for Elected and Public Employees Oversight Committees. So we've got this stuff up there. So we got a doctor that even admitted that there's no coronavirus. You know, he came out and, you know, it's on the website. You can go look at it. It's there. See, the thing is that people are freaking out because the stuff is coming out because they went after it. It really disturbs me. I'm not a guy who votes. You know, it's going to be interesting because when I file for county commissioner this week, I'm filing as a lawful bloodline native again. Believe me, when the state did that last time, they called me up and go, what is this? And I said, that's what I am. Well, you have to do Democrat, Republican, or, independent. And I said, no, that's not the law. You know, and she got pissed off because I even read her own administrative rules to her. See, that's what I'm saying. It's so important for you folks to read this stuff, document it, and do it. It's like now it's finally starting to come out where they're starting to admit Obama is from Kenya, and when he said he was born in Hawaii, who owns Hawaii? The Queen of England. Go look at the Hawaii flag. Don't try to argue with me. The Queen of England, or the King of England back then in 1867, took over Hawaii. That's why they fly the Jack flag. We have 48 states in the Union. You have 50 states in the Corporation of the United States. Comprehend when somebody talks about the United States, you should ask them, are you talking about the United States Incorporation or unincorporated? Clarify it. So that even goes with child support. Because when you get these letters from child support, okay, save the envelope. That's mail fraud. That's trying to extort money from you right off the bat. But you have to write that down for not only the federal law and the state law of extortion of money. So you have to write this stuff down, put it in paper, and make sure you save it. See, it doesn't work where people think that, you know, we got this God that's going to come save you. If you look in the mirror, you're God. If you believe God's a woman, then your God is a woman. You have to save you. And I'm not being hard on religion because people get on me all the time. But, that's the point when it says in the Constitution, in the foundation of this country. In the Immigration Act, go read the original Immigration Act of 1770. That was the first treaty that was signed with the British government. And so when people want to talk about that, I've got that. I know that one should be up on our website because I put that up a long time ago. And that's the point. People want to argue that. And then go read when the Supreme Court opened up. The year it did. The first court cases. Read the first 5 court cases in the Supreme Court. See, see, that's the point, is that you got to read this stuff. You know, it's like everybody going nuts. The newspaper is telling you that the SARS virus is COVID-19, and I've got that from a doctor now, that he went public in the state of Oregon and filed that COVID-19 is originally SARS, and he published it. And so he wrote it to the governor of Oregon, Kate Brown, and said, hey, tell the truth, Kate. Here's the real truth, and you know it. I mean, this is a doctor writing a letter that just couldn't handle it anymore. The lies. So it comes down to your child. When you register it with the state, you give your child to the state. So, of course, the state can come in. That's like the Queen of England coming out this year. I believe it was June 13th or 12th, something like that. The Queen of England came out and said, we could take your child. Not only that, there's court cases in England what they even admitted, and this is just in the last 5 months, all right, that says that the state owns your child. Now, in a democracy of the Queen of England, and remember, democracy is not American structure whatsoever. I don't give a shit when you want to go to the bullshit and saying democracy, because remember, democracy and republic didn't start until the Civil War. Prior to that, there was no democracy bullshit. It was men and women. Read your history. Real history. Because remember, the winners of the wars or the losers of the wars, it depends on what history book you want to go by, write their decisions. And remember, the main point is when you get a decision from a judge, a public servant, and it's an opinion. Opinions are not decisions. Because a decision means that you have to be responsible and liable. Opinions, you don't have to be. That's the point. You know, people don't comprehend the administrative rules of statute laws. That's the point. You know, it's like the city, county, and state has statute laws, administrative rules that apply to elected and public employees and, by law, registered church members. You know, and that's the point. You know, and that goes back to their own administrative rules that was passed in 1890. Church members, you know, you want the church, this is what you have to go by. And see, people don't comprehend the reality of what's going on in the world. They don't even comprehend what's going on in their own area. I mean, it's really sad when the children today don't even have any real education. We haven't had real education in this country realistically since they put in the Education Board in 1968. You know, from the East Coast it was dead, and it started going from the East Coast to the West Coast, and it didn't kill in the West Coast here until, what year was that? 1980. Because 1980 was the last year in the West Coast, at least in California and Oregon, I personally know, they took away what they call the civics class. Not socialism that they teach today in school. Because your children are being educated in socialism right now today. You're not being educated in civics. If you don't know what civics is, look up the definition. And watch people to read. Because, see, all these people are going on a TV, I'm doing this, and so somebody says a word, and you jump off and go write a letter or something like this, and you're writing what these people have already mind-controlled you to, and you can't even think of the truth. So when a mother registers that child with the state that they're in, they abandon the child to the lawyers, the Bar Association. And I know we have that law on the website, and email me. You know, go to our website, new.org on trackers, go click the deal, it comes to me, I'll send you the laws. And the statute codes and administrative rules, so you get to learn what the separation is. Because remember, a police officer has no constitutional authority. The only one that has technically a constitutional authority is the United States Marshals. You know, and everybody keeps going, the Marshals didn't come to Lincoln. You know, I've got paperwork that says a little differently. You know, we were talking about that with another gentleman earlier. actually two gentlemen and another lady that called me up earlier tonight, and it's like people are slowly getting it. It's reading the structure of what liability is. So that's the point. You take liability, it's your responsibility. Somebody's forcing liability down you, you have to go stand up and sue them. Okay, but you cannot sue them in the district court because the district court is an administrative court of the Queen of England, or Article I courts. Read what a legislative court is versus an Article III court. People will tell you, oh, that's the same thing. Article III court is not a legislative court structure. Yes, they've tied it in on the internet as one to be the other, but that's not true. Trust me, I've filed paperwork and, under administrative rules, and that goes to, what is that? Section 8 of the D.C. Code. I get so frustrated with all these people in Washington, D.C., about the Constitution and these rights. You're living under the Queen of England right now. Washington, D.C., New York City is not part of New York State. Washington, D.C. and New York City is still run by the Vatican. So when you pay your taxes, your income, property taxes, 60% goes to the Vatican. Because that goes into religious organizations, and people go, well, Ed, the Vatican and Christianity, I said, are the same thing, because anybody who does a 501c3 through 9, you're running under the Vatican. Doesn't matter which religion you think your fantasy is. Because they had to let religion be open because that's in the Constitution. See, people get confused because of all these words out there being thrown at us. And it's like, that's why I recommend it. First thing you start doing, if you're going to get into law, you got to read the Indian treaties. I've got court cases and all this structure that I've filed in the court, and everybody runs because I follow the treaties into it. Because I'm native. I've got another one that I'll be publishing here in the next couple of weeks that's going to shock people's minds, but I'm not going to get into it until it's published. And people say, well, Ed, you should talk about it now. You're hiding something. I said, no, I like living. Because once it's published, what are they going to do? They're going to take me out. Everybody knows why then. Shit, I've been dead 13 times. I've spent 7.5 months in ICU. I've been shot, stabbed, been through all this stuff. Even dug a 177 caliber out of my forehead one day. If you don't know what that is, basically it's 22. I've been through things in life, but see, that's the point. I can't sit there and say, oh, life is bad. I've had rough life like everybody has. But all of our rough life has been on different circumstances. And that's what we're supposed to learn from what, why, and how. So when the mother sits there and abandons the child and then goes to the state corporation, I want money. Well, excuse you. Haven't you ever looked up your straw man account? People say the straw man account don't exist. I've got the federal law says it does. Okay, and the way it's written under the, what was that called? The Civil War, because they actually put it in the historical documents as a straw man. That goes back to 1866 when this was started. Remember, the South got up and walked away from the table when we actually had a constitutional government. And so when the South got up and walked from the table, that's when we ended up with a corporation. So, comprehend how this ended up pointing, how we ended up in the problems we have today, how we've been wrongfully educated for the last 140 years. They can't tell the truth because the Democratic Party right now is like Pelosi, raping Social Security. She just raped it out for, $2.4 billion. And if you look at history, isn't that what the Democrats spent on trying to impeach Trump? And you think about $2.4 billion for an impeachment process. How much were people getting paid? Attorneys making how many millions of dollars on paperwork that legally they couldn't even file? Because that's administrative court, so those administrative courts can't affect you and me. But they got this terrorist organization out there at guns saying, if you don't pay us, we're going to shoot you. You know, I mean, if you don't pay your driver's license fee yet, we're going to shoot you. So if you get in your covered wagon and travel, we're going. And I've got this in writing, and I've got it on YouTube videos where cops have literally threatened me. So I mean, you know, and so when those cops do that, they're not public servants. They're pirate terrorists. They're for their own personal financial gain. They ain't Americans. I don't give a shit if they go back 10 generations. They ain't American. They sold their soul. They have no rights. You know, so we need to get back to a real court system, not administration court. And remember, our court system means that it has to be a jury. And also, too, if you do go to a jury court today, because 90% of them are administrative, unless you're able to go through the Supreme Court, through Washington, D.C., and then Philadelphia, okay, which I got to put all that together because I had somebody else ask me to put it together, which I'll get that done here shortly. Excuse me, it's been a long night since yesterday, but it's like when you sit there and start reading a history, you know, I'm going to read this thing to you again. I want you to clarify on the birth certificate bond. Because your banknotes, and I'm going to tell you how the thing to go look, the GMIT. Look it up, utility. And it'll come up. You'll see the little space bar that comes up, and that's where you type your Social Security number, you know, da-da-da, the space, da-da-da, space, da-da-da. And all of a sudden you start seeing how your birth certificate is being changed in an international market. When I looked up mine, I have over 107,000 exchange going on my birth certificate from the foundation of the banknote from San Francisco, California. The Federal Reserve in San Francisco. And so this stuff is real, and all these people out there going, oh, this doesn't work, or these lawyers out there arguing. I mean, I'm in, you know, a lot of these groups, when I try to explain to these people, you have to own your child. And then you got these attorneys going, no, because the only reason why they're telling you that is so they can make a living. When I filed that I own me, man, I mean, the cops are looking at me now. I mean, the last cop that, you know, I haven't been, you know, through a few things here lately. Of course, like I did tell them, you know, you guys already put me in that position. You know, it's like right across the mayor tells me, you can't do that, Ed. Well, I can do anything I damn well please when you threaten my life. And that's the one point that you've got to comprehend. When these people threaten your life, this is a reality. It's not an accident. You act like these people care for you. These people don't care. I mean, the mayor of my town, I mean, he came here because him and his children and his wife came up and they stole the tires off my boat because it's on my property. Well, you got to move it because we have an easement. No, I own the easement. And Rod was so pissed off at me. You know, I said, prove that I don't own it. You know, I already had these arguments with the mayor when my neighbors tried to steal my property. You know, several hundred feet of my property that the neighbors tried to steal. My soil. Excuse me, I correct myself. And so I've been through this stuff. So when it comes to your children, it's a similar thing because it's your property. It's your bloodline. And so when you got 123me and all this shit that says, oh, send it in, we'll tell you your history. They want your blood samples so they can put it on a cracking record on you. You don't know the actual results when you get back if they're true or not. Trust me. I mean, look what happened with the coronavirus. 99.9 people tested on the coronavirus were positive, but none of them had it. They're admitting it now. It's in national news now. So, and you think they're going to tell you on your bloodline what's true? So, like I suggest to people, go to mommy, daddy, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, great-grandpa. Check it. Go check the funeral homes. Go check the grave sites. You know, it means you have to get off your ass. You've heard of the donkey before. So that's what I'm saying, suggesting to people. Because when you're going into this stuff, when you get these mails and these threatening, print them out, save them. Make sure you got it in recorded record. Make sure, one thing, that you get it notarized by a few other people. Do not have relatives ever autograph anything with you for your record. Because the relatives, they can sit there and go, that's one-sided. They could use that against you. And then once you do that, you got your record straight, and then you go get it notarized by the corporation. And ask them for their seal. You don't want their stamp. You want their state seal. That means they have to sit there and take the paper, take the lever and the deal, and put the state seal on it. Now you have an instrument of binding. You don't do that, you don't have a binding instrument. You got something stamped, that's not a seal. That's the same thing with the post office. When you put mail, and I've got the mail deal, and we'll get into that one day. When you get the mail, that's the point. When they stamp it, and then I've got the letter too with post office. Once the mail's delivered, it's delivered. They can't sit there and say they didn't get it. They lie. And see, that's the one thing that when you pay a lawyer or an attorney, the attorneys want you to pay into their system to support their crookedness, their crooked crimes, their crimes. The Bar Association is owned by the British Auxiliary Register, the King and Queen, called the British National Bank. And so when you say, I'm a citizen is owned by the bank. And I argue with people, and I've got the records and all this stuff to prove you. I never say that because remember, after the Civil War, they changed the citizen from the large C to the small c, then they just incorporated it as citizen, large C or small c. They incorporated it in their administrative rules. So, and that one is that's a harder one to fight that says, all right, I'm a lawful native, I can prove my bloodline. When you want to fight the citizenship, remember, you're fighting a ship. And please look up the definition of citizen. A citizen belongs to a corporation. Is a member of a corporation. Is not member of rights. You know, I mean, that's the point. You know, when you register your kid, you're giving authority to the state. And so, and that's the point that people are not paying attention to. You know, and the same thing, because when your kid is a bank statement, banks cannot own property. So when that birth certificate is there, the banks cannot own property, so they can't own your child. That's Title 12, Banking Act. You know, they even got updated court cases in 1985 admitting to this stuff in the Banking Act. That banks can't own property, so your child's a property to the corporation. And so when you sit there and go through this, and then people don't realize that, you know, everybody keeps going, I want to be a patriot, I want this and that. I don't want a title of nobility. Because a patriot is a title of nobility. And that falls, too, under 127 CFR 72.11, commercial crimes. Commercial crimes, that's revenue laws, bank robbery, counterfeit, forgery, kidnapping, larceny, illegal possession of deadly weapons, prostitution. You know, see, a deadly weapon. What is a deadly weapon? They've had cops even write tickets to kids who farted in the classroom and called it a deadly weapon. Okay? It was called nerve gas. They actually got court cases on this. It's not a joke. I know it's funny to laugh at, but it's real. Could you imagine being a 13-year-old kid who went through all this hell and hassle? He went through this public embarrassment in a newspaper and all this stuff. This was in, I believe it was in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, Michigan or Minnesota. This was a couple years back, you know, that the cop wrote him for chemical warfare for a fart. And if you want to do chemical warfare, we're going to do that when you get your vaccination shots. Go to the Geneva Convention. Read chemical warfare. It's in the Geneva Convention. You know, yes, it's a lot of reading. Yes, I know what it is. That's why I sit here and do this all day. So when I bring this stuff to you, I'm bringing you the administrative rules versus the law, administrative statute codes versus your treaties. See, the Constitution, we have two constitutions in this country. And that was founded after the Civil War. First Constitution is the British Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church. And so that's what I'm saying. All your churches are nonprofit, so it falls into it. I don't care what denomination you want to claim you are. It's in the law. It's in their administrative rules. It doesn't matter what denomination. You're all one and the same. You know, it's like, you know, it was interesting being up at the Capitol and watching these clergy up there when they're passing administrative rules. And they have to get it checked out through the Vatican, administrative rules. And I put this up, and I'll put it up tonight at the end of the talk show in the deal, because your administrative rules are by the Vatican. That's your city, county, and state. And so here's another one that you guys want to comprehend. This is a great one. U.S.C. 3002Title28USC, Chapter 31, Public Debt. To write it off. Even says it right in the law. You know, going back to a Civil War, 1866. So with that, special rules related. And this goes back to effective. This thing came out in 2004. Section 310B, Title 31, U.S.C. Code increases such title in the budget. No Pay Act. Oh, wait a minute. Did you hear that one? No budget, no pay act. So that goes back to, what do they call that? 192. I mean, when you start putting these things together, and you start realizing that, you know, under these administrative rules and these statute codes, they put this stuff, but people are going, oh, they can't do that. It's like people doing the argument with the Bible. And religion. Religion is not supposed to be in our government whatsoever. Church and state is supposed to be separate, despite what your British Democrats are telling you. Especially Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she works for the Queen of England. I still can't believe that bitch at 80 is still doing this stuff. Excuse my language. I mean, it is so frustrating. But you gotta, when you read this, you'll see it. No budget, no pay act. But that's the point. When you read these court cases and stuff, you want to read what they call special notes. That's why when people get their kids taken and kidnapped and held for ransom, I always suggest, did you ask the caseworker in writing? One thing, never talk to these people on the phone. Ever. Put it in writing. If you talk to them, you have no evidence. You put it in writing. So you want all correspondence in writing. All right? And you put it in the correspondence. You want it in writing when you ask for these questions. And ask them questions. Do not make a statement. Okay? It's like nonprofit agencies, you know. The corporation runs a nonprofit. Don't autograph those paperwork. You don't autograph those stuff. You make sure it is, what is it called? If you have to, signature. Because under duress, you could get out of a signature. An autograph, basically, you get stuck in liability. And see, this is the point that people are not comprehending the administrative rule, statute code, federal, state, whatever you want to call it, versus the treaties. Because by law, the Indian treaties are the law of the land. And that goes back to the Supreme Courts, and that was a decision going all the way through the Supreme Court through, 1828, 1867, and then when it really started going with the Civil War, and they started doing this with the two constitutions, and look up your two constitutions in this country. One is the Indian treaties and the original Constitution versus the British Constitution of the Civil War. Remember, the South went out. See, that's one thing. You know, so you want to be able to make sure this. You know, that is the one thing. You know, once you start comprehending this, you get away from you want to get away from the BS. You want the truth. You know. And so it is interesting with the circumstances of these things that people don't get the reality that we're living. So you have to put this stuff in writing. You don't want to sit there and talk to these people on the phone. You want to make sure it's in writing. And so once you comprehend that, you're able to start doing this stuff and standing up for your family, your bloodline, and prove your bloodline. You know, that's the one thing you want to be able to prove your existence on this soil. See, you know, that is the one thing that, you know, once you start doing that, then you get to know what the real truth is. Because, like I said, your banks are still run by the Rothschilds, the Fairchilds, the Bank of England. So, and that's one thing. They have no constitutional because the District of Columbia is in England. So I want to get into one other thing, and then we're going to open up the floor. I rambled on a little, or talked a little bit more than I wanted to. But when you go to court, make sure that you're asking for these things in writing. Remember, your corporation, court is a corporation. So you want to ask for their VIN numbers. You want to ask for their authorities to be put in writing. You know, and they're going to quote you a statute code and administrative rule, and then you got to respond back. How is that versus the Constitution versus the treaties? Or this administrative rule or that administrative rule? See, I mean, it's so simple when you step out on doing this stuff. You know, I mean, I have fun, you know. I mean, I got these people going, well, come on, Ed, you know, you're being investigated by the FBI. I've been fighting the FBI for years. And we go back to 2004 and 2006 when the local government tried to have me assassinated. Yes, the sheriff and the local cops literally did. It's in the Department of Justice reports that he did on me. You know, I wanted to go after and sue them on that, and then all of a sudden, oh, nothing happened. Because the governor and everybody tacked it up, because if I was able to prove the real truth with the British government and all that, everybody panicked. There's no bullshit. I've got it in the reports. You know, and that's the one thing, you know, and don't remember, religious people, oh, they're the worst people on the planet. They'll steal from you. They'll take your own reports. They'll even take stuff because, oh, God told me to do it. And when somebody tells me God tells me that, I just think, oh, my God, these people are mentally. Because who's God? What God? Why is there a God? Is your God better than my God? You know, why are we arguing and talking about religion when we should be talking about facts? What, why, and how? So let me get into this before I get into this. Remember, when you're going through child support, you have to ask these questions: who, what, why, and how. And don't forget, Title 28 USC 3002. United States means a British corporation. It's right in the administrative rule. It says it right there. Structure A, Section A of the administrative rule says the Federal British Corporation. Title 28, 3002. An agency, department, commission, board, or other entitles of the United States. And remember, when people say United States, you need to ask them, oh, corporation? People just assume. And we know what assume means. It hurts when you get kicked in the butt. So when we go through this, and I mean, you know, I'll be putting all this stuff in the deal tonight, too, so you can read it. It says it right in these administrative rules. The British government, the Vatican. It's like the 16th Amendment was never passed and ratified. It was introduced, but it was introduced at $500,000 to pay 7%. And then also, too, why are you paying your taxes when it goes to the Queen of England? And I can prove it. We'll put that up tonight. See, that's the whole thing. Like I said, you know, when it comes to your child, all crimes are commercial. Your birth certificate is a banknote. Please look up 27 CFR 72.11. So if you're going through this, put that in your paperwork and ask the opposing people a question to that. It says this, so can you please explain it to me? And if you have to play stupid, yes, play stupid. I don't know what it means. Put them in writing. And remember, estate officers have no constitutional authority. That means any and all elected and public employees have no constitutional authority. Lawyers, attorneys, barristers, advocates, selectors, Americans who claim they're Americans. A bar, the British Auxiliary Register, the King and Queen, is a license to practice their administrative rules. And that's their administrative rules, not yours. So before I jump off here, let's say, Indian treaties, law of the sand, that was decision in courts. That's Struther versus Lucas, 37 U.S.C. 410, 12 P.E.T. 410.ed.1137, 1938. And Congress shall be bounded. That's your mayor, your city council, anybody who works for the government, private contractors thereof. Even private contractors getting paid by your system, they are bounded by this. So that's the Congress is bounded by this, by the treaties. And don't forget, natives by law are not supposed to pay state or federal or any, even local taxes. That's law. And that actually was stated in the Laramie Treaty in 1868. All this stuff is in real history. But see, they don't want you to have history. Kids today are not taught this stuff. So I think I went on a little bit on this one tonight. Let's go ahead and open up the floor. And remember, taxes go to the Queen of England.
All participants are unmuted.
So the floor is open. Nobody? Okay. Well, let's go back to the structure before we call it a night. The mother allegedly abandons the child to the state corporation called the Bar Association. All right? And the Bar Association includes lawyers and attorneys. You want to mute that noise? Because if they're not going to speak up, we don't need to have static. So the Bar Association owns your child the minute you register. And people say, oh, you have to do that. No, you don't. You get that birth certificate, you file the owner paperwork. And I've done this in so far 13 states with people. We write up a contract, the people give birth, they serve the hospital, and if the hospital gives out that birth certificate information, you sue them for theft of identity. of the child. And remember, Social Security for a child cannot even be registered until the child's 18. It's his or her decision, not yours. And a vessel is all capitalized names, and that's when you look up in your state what the definition of a vessel is, with capitals. And you type in vessel name in caps, and you'll be amazed what you get in your state when it comes up federally. Anyhow, anybody else got anything they would like to add this evening?
I got kind of a general one.
Floor is yours.
How do you bring all this U.S. or federal stuff into like a state or a county court matter?
Why are you going to a state and county court? You want to have that court case moved to a federal court. You don't want to go to city and county. Because the minute you walk into a city and county, I even have it by a general in the Oregon military. It says you walk into that flag that has the gold fringe flag, you gave up your rights. You have nothing in it because you didn't file your paperwork before you went in it, and you should ask for your case to be moved into a federal court.
Is that
you want
like
change? You want to go ahead.
Is that like the Jennings stuff? You reserve your federal issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And you have to remember, you have to write the criminal complaint because attorney, a lawyer, none of those people can write a criminal complaint because they don't exist.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, and that's the point, you know, that people want to argue stuff, and it's like, the solutions are there. You know, they're freaking out on me. Like I said, I'm running for Lincoln County Commissioner. And I know the budget better than these people. You know?
I found one you might find interesting. I was searching Hale versus Hinkle because I hadn't read that. I hadn't read that in a while. And anyway, one of the early ones that came up, and I think only because he referred to that in his, but it's James E. Whitney versus Donald Trump. Are you familiar?
I've seen it, but I didn't read the whole thing.
Well, I didn't read much of it, but it was like, I think it was like 2017, 16 or 17, somewhere in that time frame. But his early on there, his language about the living. I can't remember it offhand. I'm not online right now, but basically the living man, you know, as opposed to the corporate dead man. But his language was interesting, and that comes up early in the paperwork. So anyway, worth a look. And the other one that's worth a look, that if you're not familiar, go to YouTube and punch up Michael Anderson.
Yeah,
he'll come up pretty fast, and the title will be something about laws versus codes and policy, or something on that order. And this guy, he's in a wheelchair already. He will wear a mask, but the latest video is his dealing with security guards. He's already in a wheelchair, but he's got a problem with his foot, and he's trying to go to the county hospital for a regular scheduled appointment and all that, and just the what he has to deal with these security people. And
they're policy officers of their corporation.
Yeah. Anyway,
I know I used to run a security company.
It's pretty good. I think you might appreciate it.
Okay. And that's the whole point. Like I said, when it comes down to it, is education. And remember, when you want to look up your birth certificate, it's called public debt. Your birth certificate is actually what it actually states. 31 U.S.C. Chapter 31 states, public debt, your birth certificate. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. Your structure goes, oh, I got to go back and get the deal for the utility, so that way I can get that out here, too. We want the utility brought up. Let me go back over to the front page here.
Hey, while I've got you, are you familiar with the guys over at Understand Contract Law and You Win?
Yes, I have some. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you like them? You think they're?
I haven't had much time with them because they're going by Article 1, Section 10 on the contract law of the Constitution.
Okay, and they are.
Well, and that's the whole point, that you want to do that. That's what I'm saying when you go to these kangaroo court systems. And remember, our country, and if you type in guaranteed of the Republic form of government, it comes up. It's already in your history books, and it's already in the Supreme Court administrative rules. I mean, you know, this stuff is there, but they've been brainwashing us so much by these TV commercials.
Yeah.
You know, and people, I mean, I was around the rock and roll movie industry for several years. I mean, I caught the subliminal messages. I remember when I used to do the stages for this. We talk about how we could put this in the background, how we could put that in the background, and we flash it so many times people don't even know it, and right. It's already in their mind.
Oh yeah, I did. Seems like a high school science project on subliminal messages. Yeah.
Well, a lot of us did that in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Cool.
You know, and that's the point. People don't realize Executive Order 2040 says right there in the paperwork when they did your birth certificate. Remember, it was pre-set up in the Civil War. It didn't go through until FDR put it in, and that's the deal. And then it really didn't get certified until William Jefferson Clinton, who made it that the state owned your child. Remember, citizens and citizens and nationals were declared enemies of this country.
And that was FDR, right?
Yes.
Okay, but they were setting it up. They were setting it up at 1913 and 1917 and.
Well, yeah, that goes back to a little bit sooner than that. That goes back to 1901. That's when they started figuring out, when they started putting the banknotes together.
Yeah. Well, it all goes back, and if you keep tracing it back, it goes back farther than Babylon, right?
Right, yeah. And then people go back that, and I'm like, that comes from a foreign country. And people try to go, well, that's this or that. And I'm going, no offense to religion, that's from a foreign country. We never had that in this country until it came to this country. That's like with immigration. I got to finish this immigration letter and go after this immigration group that's on YouTube now. You know, we need open borders. We don't want this stuff. We don't give a shit what these terrorists want. If we don't protect our bloodline, there's no future. And then you got seven states in the union right now that's serving cadaver meat in restaurants. Human bodies in the restaurants. And it's real. It's happening, and it's been FDA approved.
Oh, God.
Okay, you type it in. It comes up. It's not a joke. I mean, we did a talk show on it a couple months ago, and I brought it up, and I posted all the administrative rules on it, too, from the FDA. And then people go, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I would rather it was a joke.
Well, yeah, but, you know, people go with Satanism whenever they want to go. That's like babies that are in your soda pop. If you drink your soda pop, babies and certain food products. But don't forget, certain food products you're buying has the old gym mats that are ground up into it. I mean, what was it? Subway got busted for that, serving, you know, old mats in their bread dough.
Well, they tried feeding cows back to cows, and they just
the mad cow disease.
Right, that wouldn't work.
Well, it's the same thing. Eating human cadaver meat doesn't work.
That's insane.
It is insane, and people think it's okay. That's the thing that gets to me about it, when people start doing this stuff. You know, and that's the point when you say, I'm a citizen. Well, that means you're a member of a corporation. I'm a national. I'm a member of a corporation. And it says it right in the dictionary.
Yeah.
That's what amazes me. The stuff is actually in the dictionary, and people want to argue about what's, well, it doesn't mean that in a dictionary. I'm like, now you're starting to act like a judge. Now you're starting to act like an attorney. Remember,
or a Christian.
Yep, and remember, cops cannot practice law. So when they're writing you a ticket, they're practicing law.
That's a good point.
And so when you're doing that, these are questions that you want to bring up when you're going to these kangaroo courts. If you get a traffic ticket, put it in a letter. Is this guy practicing law by here? And like I said, I'll put these administrative rules in YouTube, and I'll get all 3 of them or 4 of them set up. The last 3 or 4 shows we haven't done it, and I'll just put it in all of them. And so it'll be, probably 100 comments in it. Because I'll put the structure of the government into it, and the structure of citizen and national, what it says by their own administrative rules and their laws. And remember, a statute code and administrative rules is corporation law. That means registered church members, immigrants, and all elected employees have to go by it. Natives are not in the structure by a corporation. The Indian tribes have structured themselves, and it's really disgusting because I know numerous natives that are going after them, even some that are on the native boards, and even 2 of them in the federal boards, and they're trying to open up their own people's minds, and they're like, we want the federal funding. And our attitude is, you got the land. How come you're not collecting rainwater? How come you're not growing the deer? How come you're not growing goats to eat it? And you got the problems with the weeds? Let the goats eat it. Yes, it might taste a little bit, gamey at the point, but then when it does that, then you've got to sit there and, what is that, feed them blackberries and peaches and stuff before you eat them. If you ever ate deer during certain seasons, in August, September, October, and part of November, when you hunt them, you see the meat changes. And also, we had one deer we got off the mountainside. The meat was just looked like basic blackberry. And it was the sweetest meat I've ever eaten.
Yeah.
But that deer just ate blackberries and apples that were falling in the trees. And that's the one thing that your public employees in the forest are cutting down the fruit trees. Because remember, they were planting fruit trees in the forest 100 years ago. And they're logging them out. Go ahead.
Johnny Appleseed.
Yep. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying Johnny Appleseed. I have, the only thing I've had much success with where I'm at I'm above 7,000 feet, and I get these late frosts and all that crap.
Right.
But I brought a plum tree up from lower altitude. But this guy I was working for, he had some on the property that I was working on. They're not doing too bad, but yeah, I think I promote that as much. Put it in a damn veggie garden, Do what you can. Yeah, dig up trees, do all that as much as you can, because, what if all the crap did come down? The banks were shut and your money was no good, and you couldn't go down to the local grocery store and buy your good shit, that's just kind of a thing. To me, you ought to do, I can only do this or I can only do that. It's like, well, yeah, go ahead and do it, If all this crap went away, all this stuff we argue and are fighting against went away, you still have to eat and stuff, right?
Not only that, we wouldn't need the need for psychologists.
There you go. There you go.
But the one thing too.
On that note, on that note, I'm going to play this right now. I got phone court on Monday, and they've been dicking around with me for over a year on a damn traffic matter. And the way they do it here, they don't even start speedy trial clock until a plea is entered. And and I can't find it. I have a note about it, and I'm still looking for it. But I'm on Colorado, and there is a Colorado case, I believe it's Colorado Supreme Court, that if you are not a corporation, you can't even plea or enter a plea. Oh
yeah, no, you're right. And oh God, I used to have that court case. I believe it was in 1978 and revised in 1987.
That sounds about right. Like I say, I tried just punching it in, and so far I can't find it.
Send me an email on it, and I'll see what I can do in the next few days.
I will. Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
No problem. And the other point.
In the meantime, I'll keep looking.
Okay, but I want to make sure you guys comprehend. Write this down. GMI utility. That's your birth certificate changed on the banking market. Go ahead.
GMEI. You always forget the E.
Oh, did I do that? GMEI. Excuse me. I did. Actually, I said IE instead of E. Yeah. Anyhow, you're right. GMI or EI utility, and I will have that tonight put on the YouTube channel and investigate this stuff. Because people don't get it that this is realistically. I'll be putting the actual law too that I read earlier that correlates with this. And then also, too, with your Social Security number, when you give it out, you got to file on your Social Security number to own your Social Security number, because by law, if you give your Social Security number out, it's a federal crime. That's not a joke. They did. It's on my Social Security card that I got back in the 60s. Well, yeah, it was way back in the 60s. And it says it right on the card. But it doesn't say it today, because after William Jefferson Clinton was elected in office, all that stuff on your SSI cards disappeared. Because when he put everybody as a commercial identity, and that's his executive order, which that will be on this website too when we get off on the YouTube channel. But he put everybody as a corporate identity.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you got to read 27. Section 72.11, it says every crime is commercial. So it's already paid off your birth certificate bond. And it's already paid off insurance, and it's that point. And so it's separating this. Even firearms. You want to look at 26 U.S.C. Chapter 5.3. See, you don't call it firearms. It's arms. And I'm glad that they do firearms instead of a gun. Don't use the corporation names. And that is the one thing. Go ahead.
No, isn't firearms, I'm trying to remember. I think it's something explosive, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what you're...
Wait.
Go ahead.
A weapon that has already been used in a murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that has to be... But see, you're using the word weapon, okay, and that is a commercial written structure. Because type in weapon. Weapon's a commercial.
Yeah. Oh, it never ends, right?
Yeah, well, that's the point. It's like your water bill, utility bills. I mean, that is supposed to be covered by, and that even supposed to be covered under, what is that, 31 U.S.C. 3113, and that's accepting a gift. See, I mean, this stuff is really right in these administrative rules that are up there. And if you don't get that one, then type in 31 U.S.C. Subtitle 3 in your financial management. Somebody knew exactly what I was talking about. And this is the one thing that people don't comprehend, how this mechanism of confusion has been so indoctrinized in people's minds. See, that's the one thing. Everybody wants to talk or argue about religion, and how come we're not talking about the facts of life? Religion is supposed to be something that is between you and your God, between you and your circumstances. You know, we need to be talking about solving these issues. You know, it's like I said, the best way, you know, it keeps going, how are you going to do this with Trump? File and own yourself. Make sure that the White House gets it. Start setting a precedent, and you'll be amazed how things start changing and turning. And that's the point. Remember, it only took 3% of this country to save the country. So if we do it again, and we can do it without firing a weapon, we can do it by, they wrote it, we quote it. They have been saying that since we've been doing this show. You know, I don't know, we're probably 400, almost 400 episodes. You know, you write it, we quote it. They wrote it, we quote it. You know, I mean, I'm quoting their administrative rules or the Constitution or the native treaties. You know, and don't forget, like I said, commercial says, what is that? UCC. Uniform Commercial Code. And don't confuse that with the color of law. See, that's the point. People will confuse all this stuff with one thing to another. It's like admiralty. We don't want to have jurisdiction in admiralty. That's your Article 1 legislative court. And then again, we can't forget that it comes under military court. So, and then that way you want to be able to write the military structure, because like I said, when I got it from a general from here in Oregon that said, you walked in that courtroom with a yellow flag, you walked in and gave your authority the minute you walked, opened that door and walked in. You know, we did that when I got that letter for well, I didn't get a letter. He gave me an email that shot it off, and then I asked Senator Peter Courtney from the state of Oregon. He's the one who directed me to that, because Peter only gave me a general idea, and I knew Peter because up at the Capitol, being there myself. And so it's like, that's the whole point, of learning this stuff. So, and then I've been learning this stuff for basically 40 years. You know, I started putting this and figuring this out when I started doing this about 12, 13 years old. So I shut my mouth up for a lot of years. I just sat in the background. I went and had a life. I did the rock and roll movie industry. Did some acting. I did some of this. I did some of that. And so I went around and learned. And so that's the point. And the point is, we're not supposed to be fighting and arguing with each other. We're supposed to be saving each other's bloodline, so that way we're able to eat and grow. And, you know, it's like I always been saying, plant food, grow food. How come, I mean, I put in an administrative bill in the state of Oregon, that must have been like 25 years ago, to plant food in your city and counties and stuff, and the state of Washington started doing it 2 years after I put the bill in the House and Senate. You know, they wouldn't even give me a Senate day for that one, because I was putting it that way, so only 1% from the budget would go into it. So let's say with your city budgets, even though how much they say they only got when they got 3 books. Trust me, when they come out and tell you this is what it is, and don't forget, when you pay your local taxes, it's an interest and dividends. They reinvest it. So it doesn't pay anything. It's just reinvested. And so those corporations are living off your interest and dividends that you could be doing yourself. You know, that's why I say I'm not a United States citizen. I am not a resident. I am not an inhabitant. I am not a franchisee or franchisee owner or member. I'm not a ward of the property of the chattel. CHATTEL. It's like reading these words and understanding that I'm not part of this monarch of the corporation of Commonwealth. Commonwealth is federal and state territories, country, council, city, municipality bodies, political structures, and any other government agency that is allegedly created under the authority of the Constitution of Administrative Rules. And yet your Constitution has administrative rules that was put in place. It's like, oh, I should get into the before we get off here with the police departments and the sheriff's department. I had somebody ask me on that one. Let me find that one. And I'll be putting that up so you guys know the difference. Because, you know, people say, well, there's a constitutional government. The police departments are constitution. The only thing that's constitution is the the marshals. You know, and see, the sheriffs, they had authority, and that's the best line in Mel Brooks' movie. I can't remember the colored actor's name when he got hired as a sheriff, because they were going to hang him, and so Mel Brooks says, oh, we're going to send this guy. And if you haven't seen the movie, you got to watch it, because it comes out with the truth on the structure of the sheriffs when they came in. Because remember, the sheriffs were originally Lincoln's bodyguards. You know, so, I mean, it's like looking at what history is, not what we've been allegedly taught to believe. You know, I mean, the other point, too, if you get a mortgage, go to U.S.C, 12 U.S.C, 3754.59 CJS, $, double $. 2, mortgage definition. Remember, banks cannot loan money. Mortgages are a dead pledge. So, I mean, and that falls under what they call payment of debt. So when you're writing that off and you're paying that debt, that's how the national debt goes off, because you're paying the Queen's debt. You know, see, we shouldn't be paying foreign countries' debts. You know, it's bad enough we got China running our country when it comes down to it. I mean, I still can't believe the stuff that I read, how China moved up in Canada and started to write their administrative rules in Canada. So, I mean, it is so bizarre that we've gone to that left extreme, and how people are not paying attention to this in our own country. Okay, I got to find this on the sheriff's, because I'm going to be putting that on the website too, because you guys really need to really need to read this stuff, because when you start putting these pieces together, you start going, oh shit. You know, that's the one thing that, you know, it's like I get this message that, you know, today was sent to me, you know, the FBI is looking at you or investigating you. Everything I write, I send to the federal marshals, to the provost marshal, I send it to the House and Senate, and I send it to everybody. So, of course, I already know they're looking at me. What are they going to do? I mean, the FBI already had a meeting with the mayor and city council 12 years ago when they were going after me and they couldn't put me in prison. You know, they already tried to take me out, and we already been through all this stuff. You know, also, I'm just giving out the information. You know, that's the whole point, is getting this education out. So, I mean, I'm still blessed that I'm still kicking and still walking. I mean, especially with my spinal cord injury. Most people's spinal cord injuries, they're on their back. You know, so, I mean, you know, I look at the plus sides of things. So remember, proof. And I have the proof, sheriff, attorneys, lawyers, judges, any and all other persons. And, you know, it always upsets me when people keep talking the word person when I talk to them on the phone. Because person is an inanimate object, does not exist. Definition of person does not exist. It's not there. So a legal meaning of oath, and remember, we're talking legal meaning. Not lawful, not treaty, not structure, legal meaning. You know, and that's one thing. And I have the oath to a sheriff, and associate of ours that runs another website, Mike, he brought up a point, and he put up a structure for sheriffs to sign on blood, basically blood paper, which I thought was a wonderful idea. You know? And so that is the one thing. And see, that's the one thing in their oath. It doesn't quite say, it says, I will do the Constitution, but what Constitution are you talking about? We assume it's our Constitution. We don't know if it's a democracy constitution or not that they're taking an oath to. That's why we want to clarify. I have the facts that says different, but you have to understand these people are out there. And don't forget, these citizens and nationals and residents, you know, usually are denied a free 1099 form. And read what a 1099 form, we'll put that up too. You see, people don't comprehend what taxes are. And then the other point, 1099 of a non-United States resident or entry discussion. Of course, I don't fill out the paperwork. Oh, the other point is like the census. They're out there doing the census right now. I don't do the census because I'm not a British subject. Census are not there for your schools and banks and all this shit they lie to you. Well, they're for your banks. But they're not for your school funding and all that. It's a check on you in your home. You're giving them personal information, so then when you get a knock on the door, you gave them the information. You can't argue because you voluntarily turn yourself in. That's why I got there's a law professor, he's got a wonderful video up that's an hour long that says, don't talk to cops. And if you type in the internet, police and cops are the same. Sheriff are the same as their corporation. Okay, they have no legal or lawful authority, and they have no authority to defend you at all. And that's numerous court cases. See, and when you have the information, you utilize it and comprehend what the difference of between the color of law and the difference of a statute, code, and administrative rule is. You know, and so once you start comprehend what these structures are, and you start going through these court cases, and I argued with a couple of people here in the last couple of weeks, several people, going back and forth, well, I can't read and I can't write, and it's like, I get so sick and tired of hearing that, because I don't really read that well, I don't really write that well, but I comprehend well. So when I read stuff, like commercial driver's license, you know, that's taxi cabs, vending machines operators, and all that. You know, and then they, well, if you don't have a license, we're going to sit there and go after you. And that's the other point I'll put up, too, because all government officials and agencies, any agency that gets public funding, this includes legislators, city, county, and states, are bounded by the Constitution and cannot create a de facto government of laws. And that goes back to the Supreme Court of 1895, and it's never changed since. And then it goes dealing with a direct tax. What is a direct tax? And you got, if you don't know, type in the Ohio Doctrine of Governmental Immunity. There is no government immunity for any of them. It's all unconstitutional. That's civil rights. That goes under Krause, Krause versus Ohio, APP.2D, 1L.N.W, 2D131, and this is 1971. And that's Rich versus the State Highway Department of Minnesota. Or Michigan, excuse me. And that comes under the state was sued, the city was sued, and the state are not immune from lawsuits. You can sue your cop, you can sue your judge, you can sue they're not immune when they violate the administrative rules of the Constitution. So when people say, I have a right, ask them to put it in writing. A state corporation. You can type this in, state corporation, not an injured party with an affidavit. State corporation doesn't exist. They're not an injured man or woman. And so it's separating these things. And then you go to, and you could even have fun with the federal rule of evidence. State rule of evidence is another one. Well, like I said, people don't read this stuff. No offense, people want to read the Bible. This is my Bible. You know, because this makes sure I'm going by their laws and I'm comprehending their laws. You know, you can quote to me anything else, but I go by this. You know, I've been an ordained minister. I've been through all that stuff, looking at all that. You know, I mean, you know, when I was younger, my thing was to go into religion, and then it was I was going to go into law enforcement until I realized what it really was. So it is that one thing, and then Title 34, Crime Control and Law Enforcement. Title 35, Patents. I mean, and that's the one thing that when you start reading this stuff is interesting, because you start putting this stuff together. City, county, and ordinances or municipalities, they have no legal authority. But if I could put a gun to your head, you're going to do what I tell you. Oh, and then also, too, the one point that I want to bring up before we call it, unless somebody's got anything else to say, we want to hit on copyright laws. Copyright administration, that's your city and county state. Know who runs and owns your copyright of the state, because somebody in your state organization has their name, and usually 99% of the time or 90% of the time it's a lawyer of your state owns the copyright of that state, and they change it every so often. And remember, a copyright is good for up to 77 to 105 years. So that's what a copyright is, and it's right in the laws. You know, I mean, it's the other one. You know, I brought it up earlier with Clinton. Human capital, controlled slavery, Executive Order 13037. That was passed March 3rd, 1997. And it's defined in William Jefferson Clinton Administrative Rules, capital letters, federal budgets, including the Banking Act. You know, large ownership of the federal government. The federal government is the British government. Type in federal government, it comes up British government. You know, so, I mean, and these things are so important. And if you really don't want that one, 5 U.S.C. Chapter 55, what do they call that? Human Capital Trafficking Performance Fund. Oh, that's right. They have a Human Capital Traffic Performance Fund. So, I mean, and like you said, everything's an investment. That's why you have to file, claim you own yourself, and keep the paperwork active. So I was like, you know, like I said, it was interesting when they told me when I was running for, you know, House of Representative. It was interesting when I'm talking to her, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I said, I'm a native. Well, and you know, and I said, I'm registered as a native in the voter block. Isn't that correct? Because that goes along the paperwork. It says I'm a registered native, right? Well, then the lady's going, well, yeah, do you know people don't know what that means? I don't care if people know what it means. It's in recorded record, so I'm filing under that I'm a native. I'm not a corporation. So, I mean, it's learning how their game works, comprehending their game, you know, without waiving your rights. So, and then, you know, I'll put this YouTube video, hopefully it's still here. This is the one thing that, you know, people need to know. Well, everybody needs to know why the government is always holding out to the natives. And if you want to know about your taxes, and I have the actual exhibit case, the federal exhibit case, 05.051. And his former FBI or IRS agent, Commissioner Steve Miller, coming out admitting on the Capitol floor that taxes are voluntary. And then the other point is theft by deception. Theft by deception is another video guy really walked you through the IRS code. And don't forget, national born citizen originally structure, and this goes back to the treaty with the British government after the Civil War. Native born citizen means born on the soil, and it even discusses in the federal court case 5 or more generations in the court case. So, I mean, what I'm quoting to you is the stuff that's there. I'm able to produce the evidence. It's not hearsay. And that's the one thing that people go, I'm a national. Term national in the United States means a citizen of the United States, or B, a person who, though, is not a citizen of the United States, but owes permanent allegiance to the United States Corporation. I mean, it's like, it gets to me because people, they do all this stuff, they go through all this stuff, I'm going to be a national, I'm going to do this, but they don't read what the actual administrative rules or the actual court cases are. Because they're getting this off the internet or by somebody else. I did this, I did that. I don't want a title of nobility. So when you say you're a citizen or national or whatever, that's a title of nobility. I'm a native. Where's my title of nobility? It's not a title of nobility. I'm not claiming a title. I'm native for the soil. I was born here. I wasn't birthed here. I don't have I mean, after I raised all this stink, the cops stole my birth certificate out of my house. My neighbors witnessed it. All right, would you guys sign an affidavit? And all I heard is that we're not going to lose our house for you. We're not going to lose our job for you. So it's really frustrating when we're living this structure today, and it is frustrating. So with that, anybody else got anything else to say? Okay, with that, nobody's got something to comment. So with that, we'd like to, make sure that we thank the Creator, the Great Spirit, and Mother Earth, because without the Creator, without Mother Earth and the Great Spirit, we don't have our children or food or resources. So with that, we appreciate your time. You have a blissful evening, and don't forget to look up new.org and trackers. We have a lot of upcoming and new information, and we do the best we can, so we appreciate it, and you have a great evening.
Thank you for listening to Disclaimers by Ed. It is Saturday, August 1st, 2020, and guys, honestly, Ed talks a long time. I know he gets, after a while, just drones, but listen to him. He actually knows what he's talking about. They've gone after him multiple times. He's still around. He's not in prison. He's not dead yet. Although, they're going to try. They're going to keep trying. What? What was that, Ed?
I said thank you.
They're going to keep trying because he knows too much. And you will know too much, too, when you listen to this. But, at the same time, when you know what's coming, you can be prepared for it. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming that is quote-unquote conspiracy theory. Oh, they used to say Soylent Green was a conspiracy theory. Oh, gee, as Ed's shown, they're actually doing it now. 1984. Oh, yeah, Big Brother's going to watch your every move. Your dumb phones you guys got are watching you continuously. Siri, Alexa, all those are recording your conversations. If you even sit there and talk to the TV, automatically it starts recording it and sending it to the CIA. It's been proven. There's been cases.
Remember the CIA worked for the Queen of England.
Yeah, there's been.
Those who never die.
There's been issues.
Remember the old hippie joke?
Go ahead, I didn't hear what you said.
Remember the old hippie joke? The question is not, are you paranoid? The question is, are you paranoid enough? Ed, we appreciate you very much, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Now, there's that paranoia thing. It's only paranoia if they're not out to get you. The thing is, they are out to get you. I mean, it's not paranoia then. It's being aware of what's happening, what's coming, and what they're planning to do. And I say they, and that is the corporation, the Rothschilds, and the Bilderbergs, and all them way up high. Everybody, Soros, everybody, even ones you haven't heard of. There's ones even higher than them. And they're rich enough and powerful enough. They're not in the public at all, but they're pulling strings like crazy. Think on that, and but of course that's just my opinion, my viewpoint, and so I don't have facts on that. If I had facts, I would do I would go the way of anybody who has information against Hillary Clinton. I would be that way. I would not be here. I'd have an accident. I would accidentally shoot myself in the back of the head with a shotgun. Yeah, I still don't know how the hell that happened.
Yeah, I know, that's interesting how somebody can shoot themselves in the back of the head.
Oh, what about the one who was driving down the freeway and they had information against the Clintons, and just they happened to when they're going to a meeting to start giving the information, a truck happens to break down at that spot on the overpass, and weights, workout weights, dumbbells, fall off and hit the guy, killing him. How? I mean, that I swear, the Clintons are lucky as hell. They've got somebody watching over them. But, guys, yes, paranoia is dangerous. But don't just accept the narrative. I even stopped listening to Fox mostly because they keep saying democracy, and that proves they are not part of the Constitution. They are against
Fox News sold out.
Right, but they are against the Constitution. Somebody says democracy, they're against the Constitution, or they're a moron. Have them go read the Constitution, the organic Constitution. And then, if they can find democracy, send them my way, send them Ed's way, because we want to see that proof. Because I have searched like crazy in the past. I spent like 2 days reading the whole thing over and over again, trying to find democracy or democratic or any of that in there, and it's not. So
that didn't come in specifically until after the Civil War, and it didn't only come in at FDR.
Right, and if you want to talk about the Democratic Party, they were the founders of the KKK, and now they're using race to go against. They're using race. Oh, you're racist. Guess what? They're the ones that created the racism.
Oh, we're talking Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is one of the biggest racist groups. Think about it. How come it's not Native Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter? No way. So, wait a minute. What happened to the Chinese? What happened to the immigrants that came over from the Philippines and stuff? Their lives don't matter? You even say the Canadians come down here. That's what I'm saying. That they're calling all this stuff, but nobody's standing up and saying, hey, all of our lives matter, so long as you're native on this soil.
Well,
they're beginning to not that people really get upset with them on that. They go, Ed, what about the world? We're not here to save the world. The world has to save itself. It's like a dictatorship. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Ed, the Black Lives Matter thing, it's not Black Lives Matter because a lot of blacks are against it. It's the blacks that are with us lives matter. It's a bullet point. It's a, hey, we can get people to be scared of being called racist. And I'm like, you know what? There was this one guy who put Black Lives Matter protesters dead silent because they had no rebuttal for it. He flat out asked them, Black Lives Matter? They're like, yeah! Okay. All Black Lives Matter? Yeah! Okay, what about all the aborted black lives that the Planned Parenthood has done? Do they matter? Silence. Complete silence. Because it is just a narrative. They don't care. If you look at most of the Black Lives Matter protesters, they are Twinkie-eating, basement-living, Twittering fools that live in mama's basement, and they're white, mostly.
So they're not even black.
And all of them are in their 40s and 50s.
Well, at least I don't live with my mom or eat Twinkies or because I'm in my 40s, so, and I'm white.
Yeah. I'm all over that one, but I remember I moved out when I was 16 years old. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta, as Ed puts it, stop watching the movie and watch the production.
Yeah, watch the movie, watch the production. And you start watching the production, and that's the one thing that people don't do. And it's like storyboards. People don't realize when you do a movie, videos, certain things like that, you do a storyboard as well to walk through the story, so it gives you an idea. You can always change it, but it gives you a concept of the idea of the direction you want to go. That's what a storyboard is.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and a bit of information. If a policy officer ever pulls you over or comes to your door or whatever and asks you, are you so-and-so, or can I have your driver's license and registration? Only things out of your mouth should be, and you need to be recording this on your dumb phone since most of you have it, I don't answer any questions. Because if you do not answer any questions, they cannot identify you. They can't do anything against you. Except kill you. And if they do that...
They can't put you in a contract.
Yep, they can't put you in a contract because if you don't answer any questions, that makes it to where there is no contract, no possibility. Even if they ask, do you know how fast you were going? I don't answer any questions.
You know, it's like I've had cops, local cops will now, try to talk to me. Hey, Ed, I said, I don't do contracts. And they're like, well, we're just trying to say hi and be nice. I don't do contracts. That's my response. And they know exactly what it is. These cops know what the Constitution and their administrative rules are. They know it. But remember, they're paid to lie because they say that they're trying to find the truth.
Now, the thing is, I agree, the police are needed to control the corporation servants. All those immigrants out there, that have not become natives, they're needed to keep them under control. But us natives, they're not.
Hey, get back over here.
They are not needed for us natives. So with that, we're gonna call it a night. We'll see you next week unless Ed decides to take a 90-year siesta.
No. But then remember, the most things on your contract laws are set up for 70 to 99 years and maximum 129 years. So when you look at your administrative rules comprehending what the law is versus the statute code and administrative rules, and remember the native treaties run them all. That's even presently, and that's the Superior Court today. It's in their administrative rules in the Superior Court.
Yep.
You know?
So thank you for listening to the Show. We were supposed to have a Southern as a guest, but evidently he got tired of waiting for Ed to open up. So Ed talks a lot. It just happens. So,
yeah, that happens. I have to apologize on that one too.
So with that,
But
guys,
that's the one. Go ahead.
I was just going to say with that, we're going to close the show, and we'll see you next week. That good, Ed?
Yep.
Okay.